Welcome to the timeless duel of red versus black, where strategy, skill, and sometimes a little bit of luck will help you become king of checkers. I'm Alex from Wii Games, and today I'm going to teach you how to play checkers. It's quick to learn, fun to master, and it's surprisingly competitive for a game where all the pieces are just circles. First, let's set up the battlefield. In front of me, you'll see is an 8x8 board, where it's very similar to the one we use in chess. However, in this game, we only are going to be using the dark squares. Each player should be sitting on opposite ends of the board, making sure that a dark square is facing their bottom left corner. Each player also starts off with 12 pieces, red and black. You'll be setting up these pieces by placing them on the black squares in the first 3 rows, like so. Ta-da! These middle 2 rows over here start off as no man's land. However, someone is about to break the peace, as the darker set of pieces will be the ones who always go first. On your turn, you're going to take one of your pieces and move it diagonally towards your opponent, either diagonally to the left or diagonally to the right. For you to move forward, the square itself needs to be empty. You can't just go and jump on top of your own piece. That's a no-no. However, on the topic of jumping, you're allowed to jump over your opponent's pieces to capture them. For example, if we have the red piece right over here, you're able to take one of black's pieces and not jump on top of, but over red's piece, taking that and removing it off of the board. However, you got to watch out, because now in this position, red could easily just jump right back over, capturing black's piece. Now you are allowed to chain multiple jumps in a row as long as they're facing your opponent's direction. For example, let's say that this red piece was off the board as well. I could take this black piece over here and jump not once, but twice, capturing both of red's pieces over here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? There is something important you should know about jumping though, where if you have 2 of your pieces and your opponent takes a piece and places it in between them like so, you aren't allowed to take one of your pieces to try and jump over your opponent's piece if the space you're going to be landing in is already occupied. That's a no-no. So instead, this little guy over here gets off scot-free. What you can do, however, to outwit your opponent is try and block your pieces from being jumped over. How would you do so? Well, just as I explained earlier, if the opposite player is attempting to jump to a place that's already occupied, they can't jump there. So, if you were to take 2 of your pieces and place them right next to each other, like red over here, and red was right over here, well, red isn't able to jump over, because this destination right over here is already blocked. So, let's say that you get your piece all the way to the very end of the board over here. Now, you get to embrace your inner royalty and say, "King me!" Doing so allows you to flip your piece upside down, representing that now that piece is a king. King pieces are able to move in any direction they would like. However, king pieces can only still move 1 square at a time, but now they can move forward and backwards. That's pretty cool. Now, what if you were in this position right over here, where if you're black, you only have 5 pieces left and 1 king, but red has 9 pieces? You'd think that black is at the disadvantage, but no. Kings are able to jump in any direction they would like as well. So, can you solve the puzzle on how black wins the game instantly? I'll give you a quick second. Well, now that the quick second's over, let's go and show you how the king can exert his power. First, the king will jump backwards over this red guy, then over here, whoop, then jump, 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 capturing all 9 pieces at once, all within a single move. Isn't that crazy? So how do you win the game? Well, thankfully it's pretty simple. All you have to do is capture all of your opponent's pieces or put them in a position where they are no longer allowed to make any legal moves. Now, this is different from a player having no moves that are advantageous for them, because if an opponent is stuck with only bad moves, they still have to make them as long as they are still legal. Let's say in this position over here, it's Red's turn. Red only has one guy left, but unfortunately, since these two are defending each other, Red can't jump over this piece, and he's stuck with only one legal move. Red knows that if he moves over here, his piece is just going to be captured by Black on the next turn. Well, unfortunately for Red, that's all Red can do. Then again, they could always just concede and say, good game, and lose the game of their own volition. Even if you don't like the moves that are available, you still have to make a move if you have one. Ooh. And that leads to Black winning the game. Now, what happens if both players are down to their last pieces, and let's say that they're both kings? Well, kings can endlessly move in any direction they'd like, but neither player is going to make a move that leads to their own piece getting captured. So, in that case, you can call a draw. So neither player wins, but also neither player loses. Plus, if you call a draw, it's much easier to set up and play another round. So let's go over some pro checker strats to help you win your next game. First, I highly recommend always trying to go for spaces on the side of the board. Doing so protects your pieces, as no piece can jump off the board to go and capture it. My next tip is to strategically use your back row of pieces, where your back row can't be jumped and captured because that would lead to your opponent's piece jumping off the board, and that's a no-no. But instead, make sure you strategically use it when you deem it most necessary. Now, your back row of pieces are the only thing that are preventing your opponent from kinging their own pieces. So as soon as there is a hole, your opponent is going to be rushing and trying to get as many pieces to that place as possible. My last tip for you is to always try to spot double or triple jumps. I mean, heck, if you could even get a quadruple jump, that's pretty amazing. Because ultimately, the end of the game is when your opponent can't make any moves or runs out of pieces. Capturing multiple pieces in a single move, and that's pretty cool. You just gotta watch out though, because even if something seems rather tempting, there's sometimes a cost to it as well. That's how you play checkers. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out our other how to play videos on the Wii Games channel. Until next time, stay sharp and don't forget to say, King!